Hi, welcome to this tutorial. Right, so what we're going to do in this one is I'm going to take you through the process that I go through to take one of my finished songs and prepare it for live performance. It's going to be a bit rough and ready. I'm basically doing it in real time as I do one of my tracks I've not yet done. I've got a new album coming out 22nd of October called Rebirth, and I'm basically just going through all the tracks on that album and preparing them for live performance so I can perform the album live, hopefully. And so yeah, I'm just going to take you through the process of what I go through. I've gone down the route, this is still a work in progress, this live set. I keep fine-tuning it and finding ways to improve it, so if anyone's got any other suggestions then please comment below. A lot of the videos you may have seen on my channel of me performing live when I've done a single track, I've basically just had like a few clips and I've launched those and played some bits live. I found that quite difficult with a lot of songs to sort of put them all together, because it was remembering the arrangement and really not having enough hands to bring things in and out, because there's quite a bit going off in some of my tracks. So I've gone more down the route of launching scenes basically and then playing some stuff live over the top. That gives me a good flexibility. I can take the track in slightly different directions if I want, so I can take bits out, drop bits in, extend bits, shorten bits if necessary, or I can play it exactly how it was recorded, because I've broken the track down into each section. So it's a really good flexible way of performing live for electronic music. So just going to check I've got no clips in here. Right, so this is basically the final version of my song. This song's called Departing. This is my final master, and let me just check we are recording. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, so this is the final master. So the first thing I want to do is, so I don't mess up my final master, is save it as my live version. So I'm just going to go save as, and what I generally do is I will save it as the original song name, but then live in brackets after it. I've already got a version of it, so I'm just going to get over that, because the one I started earlier that went a bit wrong. Okay, so then I really just go through the song and find sections that are going to work well as a loop, that will loop on a live basis without it sounding a little bit weird. Generally it's going to be 8 bars, 16 bars, 24 bars, 32 bars and so on. So we start off with, there's not a lot going off in this first bit. We can see we've got a, let me just, my sound card goes a bit weird every now and then, so I have to just do that, and then it's alright, which is always a bit weird, but there we go. So we start off with a little drum loop intro, and this synth part that was recorded from the system, the Roland System 1 synth, fades in. You can see we've got a bit of automation there. Okay, so that would work as a nice intro section. Now, you can go through each clip. I mean, we could do that and highlight that, hold down on it with your mouse, press your tab button, and then take it over and drop it in. Let me just get rid of these sends and returns because we don't need those. Let's just do that again. Okay, we can do that. We can do that. We've got to make sure we get it on the right channel, otherwise it won't do it. And it will take them across there. That's one way of doing it. And let me just have a look at something on here. Okay, so it basically what happens with that, it does all the automation, keeps everything in there. I find that a bit time consuming, because you've got to highlight all these, you've got to work out whatever. There's an easier way of doing it, and it will consolidate, because as well what will happen is if you look at the audio clip on this, I know I've just done the one clip, I think when it gets loops it goes a little bit weird. Didn't mean to press play. Like I say, I'm going to leave all these mistakes in, I don't care. I'm just doing this in real time as I do it, and trying to explain what I do at the same time. So, quick away. First 16 bars, get your loop brace at the top. You can see we've got 16 bars here. Right click, consolidate time to new scene. That's going to consolidate that down to a new scene, which if we go over to our session view, is now here. I'm just going to get rid of that one I dragged across before. And then we've got the same clip. Okay, it's the same principle as dragging it across yourself. It's just I find it a little bit quicker to do. You're not fiddling about dragging and switching screens and so on. So you can pretty much see this song is nicely divided up into 16 bar sections. Okay, so this we can see we've got more stuff coming in. I think the bass comes in. Yeah, more drums and so on. So that's going to work nice as a 16 bar section. And again, it's down to you how you do it. You might want shorter sections, you might want longer sections. It's just down to how you want to perform your track live. Next 16 bars, we can see we've got more coming in here. Some more percussion-y stuff going off. So let's bring that in. The next 16, pretty much as you can see, it sort of is like the full thing. Everything's playing in that bit. So that's definitely one that we would want to have as a 16 bar loop, and that's the area where if I want to extend the track, you know, if it's really going down well, I can keep looping that round. I can then take bits in and out by launching clips and stopping clips and so on. We've then got a breakdown section in the middle, so I'm thinking that's going to work nicely as a 32 bar section. So we're going to consolidate that down from there. And then looks like we've got the rest of the track. I think we're looking at sort of 4 16 bar sections because we've got everything coming back in again there. So we'll have that. Again, that's another good section I can mess about with us on a live basis. We've then got a few bits dropping out here, another drop breakdown here, and then basically everything in at the end. So let's just whip through. We'll do that one there. And yep, highly exciting viewing this bit, I know. That one there. I apologise if you can hear the beeping in the background. That's my washing machine just finished. Very rock and roll, I know. Right, so we now have hopefully the whole track consolidated. Now I've left my original tracks all exactly as they are. You can see I've got 2 pads here. I've got quite a few drum tracks. All these are effects and so on, which I've not labelled, but I suppose I should have done, which I'll probably label later on. You don't have to do every single track. If you want to export like all the drums as one drum stem, all the pads as one pad stem, you might want to get it down to 4. You might want drums, bass, lead, and vocals. It's entirely up to you. It depends on how many clips you want to work with when you're performing live. Next thing I do is I'm going to colour everything so it's all the same colour, because I have a separate colour for each track in my live set, so I know which song is which. Let's highlight all of those, and we'll do that the same colour, which is that one there. Okay, so we've now got everything nicely colour coded. What I would do as well is at this point I'd start to think about what I might want to play live, because the way I work is I will physically play some parts live, some of it will be sequenced. I also use a lot of external hardware, so I like to send some MIDI notes out to that, and that gives me a bit of real-time control over the sounds as well. I can mess about with the sounds. What I do with the drums for consistency of sound on the kick from a live point of view, all my recordings, the kicks are different. I have a different kick for each one, but I like that consistency of kick on a live basis. If you had a live drummer just with a basic acoustic kit, you're going to have the same drum sounds basically. So the kick and the hats I will send out to the TR8, the Roland TR8 drum machine, because they sound awesome on there anyway. Gives me nice consistency of kick. I can tweak the sounds a bit if I want, and tune them according to the songs. What I generally do with the snare and the clap, I will usually go with the original version that I had on the original recording. Right, so I think we're sort of at a stage where I can now start to take that into my live set. So I'm just going to save that one more time. And we need to remember where you've saved it, because we're going to need it in a second, because we're going to bring it into our live set. Right, so I'm going to open up my live set, which is this. I'm just going to pause the video in a second, because you don't want to watch this spinny thing and the Max for Live thing on screen for about 5 minutes. It's quite a big set, so it takes a while to load. So I'm going to pause the video and I'll come back when that's loaded. Back in a second. Right, so here we have my live set. down the side are my songs. So the orangey colour is my first song called Still. We've got this song called Fading. We've got a song called Mind. We've got a song called Isolation. And we've got a song called Vortex. This section here is the stuff that I like to access fairly quickly. So I've left everything for all of the songs over on this side. So I've got my MIDI, just basically use an external instrument. This goes out to the TR8. So I've got the TR8 kick, I've got the closed hi-hat, and I've got the open hi-hat. So I've got the clips for each song going out to those down there. You can see they're all color-coded. For this track Still, I'm sending some MIDI out to the Korg Minilog. So that's the track for that. Again, just using external instrument. Same thing with the Roland TB3, external instrument, and I've got my tracks going out to there. I use the TB3 a lot live because a lot of this, my new album's got a lot of acidy kind of stuff in it, and so it gives me the option to tweak all the cutoff and the resonance and so on live, so I can get a cool live sound coming out of that. These are then all the clips for the rest of the song. So if we start that one off, and I've not got the sound card set up properly on this one. I'm not going to change it for now, but because I'm going to do a separate video just going through a few of these. But so that's track 1. Okay, so for track 2, it's along here. Okay, and the reason I've done it that way is so I can have clips playing on track 1 over here and still have clips playing on track 2 over here. So I can mix them together as kind of like as a DJ would. So as I'm going through the outro of this song, I might still have the mini log playing and that percussion loop. I can then, while they're still playing, I can then launch separate clips on here, or indeed the whole scene. I could launch that scene. No, I couldn't, sorry, because that's going to stop that playing. Sorry, ignore that bit. Let's go back to playing these. Okay, so I can have these playing. In fact, let's just stop everything. There we go. There's the first big cock up. Don't do that live. Right, so let's say, right, I'm outroing this track. I've got my, I don't know, let's say I've got the kick playing over here, and I've got the percussion loop still playing. So what I can do is, I could launch this kick on here, and that's not actually going to make any difference. It's going to sound exactly the same. And then I can start to bring some of these clips in. So I might want to bring, I don't know, the ARP from this track in. So that's starting to introduce this second track while this first track is still playing. And I can kind of bring all these other bits in gradually, and I might start to bring more and more bits in. If I want to then instantly just stop the first track playing and go into this track, obviously I can launch that scene, and that's going to stop everything playing on the first track, and this track is going to start playing. What I've also done is, for this track, I've taken out all the stop buttons, all right, just above this track. So if I've still got stuff playing, let's just stop everything again. So if I've still got stuff playing over here, okay, and I've got a lot of this playing, but I don't yet want to launch a scene, and I don't want to go back and find what was playing there. If I just launch that scene, okay, that's going to stop everything else playing, but it's not going to stop these because the stop buttons have gone. All right, which is a really handy way of doing it. If you want to get rid of, if you've got loads of other stuff playing on your transition and you don't want to go throughout your whole set trying to find them, brilliant way of doing it. And if you're not sure how to remove the stop button, just right click on a clip and choose remove stop button. So handy little tip that. So then my songs sort of go down vertically. You can see there's the next one. Not vertically, diagonally. Okay, and then I've got my next one down there, and my next one down there, and so on. So if I go right to the end, that's the end of that track there. Right, so let's bring in the one that we've just done. So we've got to navigate to it here. So my songs are all in my folder entitled Ableton Stuff. I've got far too much stuff in here. I've got to try and find it in. So it was Departing, Project, and it's Departing Live. Right, so all we want to do to drag that song, that file, that session, if you like, whatever you want to call it, into here, is grab hold of it. You'll get down here, it'll say loading, okay, while it thinks about it. When it's finished loading, you'll see the cursor will change, right? You can see all the clips are appearing now. What we've got to do is try and do is get it up there, next to the master, okay, until you get the arrow, right? And then just drop it in there. and then it's going to have brought all those clips in that I did from the previous track. Hopefully, if it works. There we go. Right, let's just close that down. Make my session even bigger. Right, so Vortex was the last track I've done, and you're thinking, hang on, where is everything? But what it does is, right, it sticks everything up here, first of all. So you can see it doesn't bring in any names down here. So when you're preparing your original recording, don't bother naming it here because you're going to lose it. So all I want to do is, I'm going to highlight all of these right to the end. That's a big song. And we're going to just drag them down so it starts on the next free scene down here somewhere. Come on, move down. Yep, a bit more riveting viewing. Let's all watch my screen scroll down. Yay! Come on. There's got to be a faster way than this, but anyway, I'm going to do it like this for now. Right, hang on. I'm going to have to do that again because I've not got a free scene for it to go in. Damn. Alright, we need to insert a new scene first because I've not got anything free. Right, I've got to do all that again. Bloody hell. Right, let's try again. But like I say, you know, I'm just doing this as I would normally do it. I apologise if you're bored. If you're bored, then don't watch it. But hopefully you'll learn something. Right, let's see if it works this time. Drag it down here. Right, come on, quicker. Move quicker. No. And hopefully, if I get this on the first free scene, it will create a load of new scenes. There we go. Drop that in there. It's thinking about it. There we go. Okay. Make sure you keep saving your work. I know it's stating the bleeding obvious, but people don't. And then your computer crashes and you lose everything and you've got to start again. Now, the great thing with the scene thing down here is, because obviously all my songs are slightly different tempos. You can see this one's 110, then we've got some 124, 126. Is you can set the tempo in here. So what I generally do, let me just color code all these so I know which song I'm doing. And I think it was that one. Yeah. So I'm going to rename that. And this one is called Departing. I was going to call it Depart because I've not got much space. And this one is, I can't remember the BPM. I'll go back and check it later. But let's say it's, I don't know. I think actually, no, I do. It was 126. So you do is put 126 BPM. That can go before or after your name. It doesn't particularly matter. So if you want to look up at the tempo up here, it's at 121. If I now launch this, it's now changed automatically to 126. If I launch this one, Vortex, which is at 110, it changes it automatically. So if you want to go straight from one track to another without having to fiddle about with doing this, brilliant way of doing it. And you've got a tempo dial, like I say, I use push 2 when I play live. So if I need to gradually increase the tempo, I can do it that way. Right, so we need to get rid of the stop buttons above here for the reasons mentioned earlier. Can highlight them all, right click, remove stop button, they're gone, and I've just noticed I've not done it yet. Oh, I've done it on that track, yeah. What I would do is go through each track then and rename all of these. What I might also do in there is just put another blank scene, because you can see I've got one up there. Okay, and I'm also going to call that Depart 126 BPM. So if I've got clips playing over here and I want to stop all of those, and I've got stuff playing in here and I want to instantly change the BPM without launching any of these, that's kind of like my tempo section in there. Right, what I then go through and do is, there's the kick. So I need to put, I'm going to put all my kicks over on, so I need to start on 63 over here. right at this front bit. So remember, I keep all my kicks together. So immediately that gives me one less track I've got to look at over on the other side. And a bit more riveting viewing, watching my screen scroll across. Well done, if you're still with me, well done for sticking it out this long, but hopefully you'll learn something. Or not, who knows. Okay, I'm going to stick those in there. Right, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'll pause the video so you've not got to watch it. I'm going to do the same thing with the closed hi-hat and the open hi-hat for those midis. So I'm just going to drag those across and I'll see you in a second. Actually, I'm not going to see you in a second because I just realised I've been doing it one at a time, which is a complete waste of time because you can do them all in one. So closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, going to highlight all of them, drag them all over. Right, now I'm going to pause it. I'll see you back in a sec. Okay, we're back. So we've got this bit back in here. Just check that's not done anything weird there. No, that's fine. Okay, so it's when you bring your song in, it will bring your arrangement in. See, I've still got all my other arrangements in here, which you don't need. So I'm not sure whether that's going to take up any kind of CPU power or not, but I would recommend that you just get rid of all that, which I've gone. Right. Okay, so let's go back to departing was, which is over here. So that means I can now get rid of those three. So that's going to make it a little bit smaller. So on this one for the TB3, I'm just using the original recorded audio. I'm not sequencing on this one. So that's something that I might want to bring in and out. All of these effects, let me think what that one is. That's a drum loop. So I'm going to want to keep that out. Let's rename that. Right, all of these little bits are just... That's a loop as well. Let's have a listen. I need to just change my sound card. No, I don't. I need to change my ins and outs. There we go. Right, let's just have a listen what we've got. Yeah. Yeah, so we kind of got weird loopy things. Let's call that perk loop 2 because these are stuff that the stuff that I might want to bring in and out. That's just like a whooshy effect thing. That's going to be a whooshy effect thing, as is that. For some reason we've got an audio track with note on it on that one, so let's get rid of that. Now we've got an operator in here which is going to probably just be doing a sweepy kind of thing. In fact, that's not doing anything. Alright, you can go as well. So these effects, whooshy sounds and all of that, I'm not going to need to access those during my performance. I'm just going to rename them just for purposes of I know what's what. Alright, so all I would do with those is I'm going to just group them as an effects group. Just makes it a little bit more manageable. So I can close that down. I've got those three now down into one. So straight away we can see we've got a little bit less we've got to work with here. Now over here, again, I think this is like a weird sequency sort of thing. Yeah, in fact, is that not the same as that? Right, I think that then is actually the audio. Is that? Yeah, I don't know. Might be different. That's certainly different. But if I've got something like this, because I've got a VST synth in here, this is gonna. If I've got loads of these, this is gonna start to eat into my CPU power. So with that, I would. I'm not going to do it now because I need to do something else with that MIDI. But I would freeze and flatten the track so it converts all the MIDI into audio. System 1 is just audio. Now again, I've got filters things going off on there that again are going to be using up some CPU power, so I would freeze that track and then flatten it, which I won't do now because it'll take a while. I'll do that later. Okay, so anything that you don't need to use live and you're happy with just audio, freeze it, flatten it. It's going to get you a lot excuse me, a lot more CPU power. Right, what's this? That's second open high. I'm going to leave those as they are. The pads, and then the Electribe is like a bass sort of thing. I probably would group those together. Shut up over there. Right. Rename that as pads. Okay, and then just sort of for organization purposes, I would, at the beginning of the track, I'm going to be looking at the things I would want to be messing about with live and keeping going to the next track. So my percussion loops I would bring to the front. The system one I've not decided on this track yet. I might use the MIDI and play that bit live. But as you can see, just by reducing it down, I can get everything onto the screen. How many have I got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So generally, if I can, I like to get it down to 8 because that fits nicely on the pads on push, and I can expand those and close them as well on push. So that's basically how I do a track. Okay, I've got a few more to do, but you see my live set is pretty huge, and that's not, you know, but it kind of works for me. So I'm going to need to fine tune that one a little bit. And what I'll try and do is I'll do another video at some stage, just sort of talking through from my studio sort of how I perform and mix the two together, which will sort of be a follow up to that. We'll call it part 2. So let's call this part 1. We'll call that part 2. Because I also do a bit of live drumming. I've got some drum pads over the top, so I've got a foot pedal set up to launch the scenes as well. So I'll talk through that in part 2. Thanks for sticking with this one. Hope it's been of some use and it's not been too confusing. And check out part 2 as and when I've got that done. Thanks for watching.